Okay, we're live, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We are proceeding with our Agriculture Committee meeting. We'll go ahead and do the roll call.
Senator Bouchard,
Excused.
Senator French,
Here.
Senator Cost,
Here.
Senator Wasserberger,
Excused.
Chairman Boner.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have 3 present and 2 excused.
All right, we'll wait, or we will not be waiting for those 2 to join us. We'll go ahead and proceed with the first bill, Senate File 48, 2022 Lodge Project Funding. We have Mr. Bob Budd with the Wildlife Natural Resource Trust and Senator Ed Cooper, who will be taking the lead on the Senate floor on this nice piece of legislation. So, gentlemen, you can proceed however you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Here today on behalf of the Select Natural Resource Funding Committee to talk about Senate File 48, or excuse me, 48, our 2022 large project funding bill. With that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Budd.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I know it's late and you've had a long day, so I'm going to walk through this pretty quickly unless you have questions. And if you do, by all means, please stop me. But there are 5 projects for those background. Any bill that or any project that exceeds $200,000, either at one time or in aggregate, becomes a large project and requires legislative approval. There are 5 in here that met that standard this year. The first one is Northeast Wyoming Forest Health. This is a large community-driven effort to maintain forest health in the Black Hills, and it is it's been incredibly successful. Hundreds of landowners participating, thousands of acres. Its purpose is obviously habitat improvement, but also one of the major objectives there is to prohibit or eliminate the risk of catastrophic fire and maintain the timber industry in Northeast Wyoming. The second is the KC to Buffalo Mule Deer Crossing project. You'll recall this was in the bill last year, phase 1. This is the final phase of that. We will complete this project. Hopefully the construction will be done this summer, and it'll be done on roughly 17 miles of interstate, one of the highest deer vehicle collision areas in the state. This was the area we went this summer for our field visit, and people got a chance to see it. It's pretty impressive what we can do to keep those animals moving safe and people safe, and limit property damage moving east to west primarily. The third is Killdeer Wetlands Project in the town of Green River. This is a project that was initiated a few years ago to utilize that wetland adjacent to the city of Green River. It had a failure in part because of the way that the wetland was designed, and in part because the original structure was not properly engineered. The 2 options, one which was proposed by the city, was they were just going to take it out. That would cost more than it would to retrofit it and make it work. So we went and spent several different visits out there this fall. This one will lower the height of the dam. This one already has gotten as much match as we will put in it from one company alone, Rocky Mountain Power, who rebuilt the wetland and all of that structure voluntarily on their own. So pretty low expense relative to what we'll get back out of it. The 4th project in the package is South Pass Aspen. This is the 4th phase of that. This is a project, again, it's a forest health effort. We'll remove the encroaching conifers, enhance the aspen generation. Aspen habitats are the 2nd most productive in the state of Wyoming, behind rivers and streams. And it's been ongoing. If you've traveled South Pass at any time throughout the course of your life, you've noticed that we used to be in the fall, it was yellow and gold and orange and red. And then it was all just evergreen. It's back to yellow and gold and orange and red. So pretty impressive project, really, really highly leveraged. And then the last is the Henry's Fork Fish Passage. This is the entire length of the Henry's Fork in Utah and Wyoming until it reaches Flaming Gorge. Numerous landowners. I think we have 11 on the Wyoming side. Everything done on the Utah side will be paid for 100% by Utah. We're picking up a portion of this cost here. It restores the river to its natural function, But the part that a lot of people like is it really enhances the irrigation infrastructure and the ability for people to efficiently irrigate all of those bottomlands down there. So, Mr. Chairman, that is an abbreviated version of it. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I would point out one thing because it's always confusing. If you look in the bill there's a difference between the amount that is appropriated and the amount that is authorized. That's because some of these projects are in a second or third phase. So the amount authorized is the total amount that we have invested in it. The amount appropriated is this year's payment. And so that's why those will be different on some. Final point, this will need to be re-referred to appropriations. So I always want to remember that and we don't get hanging up there on general file and somebody goes, hey, wait a minute, you forgot to do that. So, Mr. Chairman, unless there are questions, that's the bill.
Yes, Senator French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just if you could talk to me about the first one, Northeast Forest Health, down the line starts at 20, removal of encroaching conifers and other species from forest understory, and chemical and mechanical treatment of invasive annual grasses on a portion of approximately 350,000 acres. Are you talking about trying to control cheatgrass? How successful have you been? Because cheatgrass is a son of a gun.
Mr. Chair,
It'll get that tall and put a seed out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mr. Chairman, Senator French, the biggest breakthrough we've had on cheatgrass has occurred in the last 2 years with a chemical called Rejuvra. And it has had incredibly good results. It's different than any chemical that's ever been used on cheatgrass because it's effective in the soil and it will preclude germination. It will also kill the seed. And so we are now at a point where we're seeing 5 years with no retreatment. Most of the work on that has been done up at the Sheridan Experiment Station. UW's done a lot of it. Some has been done over in Park County in your backyard. We feel really good about that. In fact, the board 2 years ago told people we're not going to fund the other treatments anymore because they were having to come back in 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And after about 2 or 3 of those treatments, then your natives are getting impacted. But with this chemical right now, probably the brightest thing we've seen on cheatgrass or on invasive annuals in 50 years. And so the reason that is in there as a component of that forest health is if you go in and you remove the encroaching juniper or you've got an undergrowth of Doug fir or whatever it is underneath that ponderosa pine, and you cut it, slash it, burn it, whatever, that actually creates a niche that cheatgrass can come into. So we want to have part of the design, and it is that you go in, you do the treatment on the forestry part, but you come back and make sure that you haven't created a seed source for cheatgrass. So it's a multi-stage. I'm guessing this one will be probably ongoing for the next 8 to 10 years.
just a follow up, Mr. Chairman. And maybe I think you started to mention it. Excuse me, I'm tired. What effect does it have if it that effective on cheatgrass and killing the seed and blah, blah, blah? What about the native grasses? What does it do to them?
Mr. Chairman, Senator French, that's the beauty. It does not affect the perennials.
Oh,
And-
okay, just that.
Correct. And we have very few, what I would call desirable native annuals in our system. It would whack those pretty well, but there are very few of those. The one thing we've looked at is whether or not some of these have an impact on sagebrush. Do they have an impact on your other undergrowth, whether it's bitterbrush or whatever it might be? And does it have an effect on forbs? Because forbs are so important in the Black Hills for numerous species of neotropical birds, for nesting sites, for turkeys, for deer. And the answer is it appears not to have that impact. So it's very, very specifically driven toward annual grasses, and it affects ventnata, medusa head, cheatgrass. It's been very effective on all of those.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate it. Any public comment? No. Okay, going once, going twice. Public comment is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure?
I move.
Great. Move.
Second. if he knows.
Moved by Senator Wasberger, second by Senator Cost. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and do the roll call for sponsorship or for approval.
Senator Bouchard. Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Cost.
Aye.
Senator Wasserberger. Chairman Boner. Mr. Chairman, we have 5 ayes, do pass.
All right, very good. Next up is Senate File 80. This is our omnibus water bill for construction. Welcome from, I guess, current and technically former members of Water Development. It's good to have you here nonetheless. So,
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Real quick, just a quick review of our process.
oh, please just introduce yourself. For the
I'm
record,
sorry.
Please, yeah.
Jason Mead, the interim director of water development.
Brandon Gebhardt, interim state engineer, former director of water development.
So all the projects in this bill today are construction projects. And I would just say that they've gone through quite a process to this point because they've come through our planning department, feasibility studies to make sure we've got good projects in front of you today that are good investments for the state of Wyoming. So that's been several years. Then they've also gone through a couple of select water committee joint meetings with our Water Development Commission for consideration, both as recommendations and then when they were drafted into this omnibus construction bill. So just wanted to point out they've been pretty heavily vetted at this point. We feel like they're good projects. You have our blue book in front of you. I just wanted to quickly kind of point out how it was laid out. The first sheet, the blue sheet, is a summary sheet that I'm actually going to be talking from here in just a minute because I know you guys are tired and ready to get out of here. Right behind that is the actual bill. And then tab A is just a description of our program if you guys are interested at a later time. And tab B goes through the different account balances that we have in each one of our accounts, account 1, 2, and 3. Again, just information. And then starting on tab C are the actual recommendations that were put in front of the Water Development Commission and the Select Water Committee to get to the bill. So if I can bring you back to the summary sheet, the blue sheet, which is the first page. We can work through that here real quickly. And how this is laid out, the first column is the tab in the book where the recommendation is located if you're interested in looking at more information. The second column is the page on the bill, in the bill itself, where that particular project is located. And then the rest is pretty self-explanatory with the project name, location, amount, terms, whether there's a grant loan or just a grant, and then a short description of the project. So after talking with Chairman Boner, I think we'll just run through this by section real quickly. And if you have any questions, you can ask particular questions about a project and we can answer those. So the first block of projects are our construction projects in account 1, new development. We've got a couple of cloud seeding projects, which are the funds for the operational programs. And then we've got 4 other projects, 4 other projects that are municipal projects that consist mainly of transmission pipelines or storage tanks. The total for that first section out of account 1 is $6,730,640. And with that, I would ask if there's any questions on those particular projects.
Senator French.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bear with me. On the number 2 and 4, the cloud seeding,
Mhm.
823,490, and then the second in the Wind River with 316,000. Is that the full responsibility of the state? Or, because I think at one of the meetings talked about the other downstream states would contribute.
Mr. Chairman, I believe you're probably thinking of the Wind River, the second of the 2 that you referred to, Wind River Sierra Madre.
The Colorado.
Yep, in the Colorado River Basin, and that is a up to 37% state responsibility, state of Wyoming, and then that 63% or more if we can find additional downstream states that want to contribute.
So the
Pay for that.
state's percentage is the 316.
That's correct.
Okay, all right,
Yep.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Questions, committee? Okay, please proceed.
The second block of projects are under our Account 2 rehabilitation program. Here, typically, we're talking about agricultural projects and irrigation infrastructure. We have a total of 9 projects that consist of typically pipelines, some pump replacements. We have a control structure or diversion replacement. I would point out, you see there is a C note 2 in the far right-hand column in the description. And we've got a number of projects that are contingent upon a transfer of funds from account 1 to account 2. And the reason for that, if we were to try to fund all these out of account 2, we would have a shortfall. And we've got enough funds in account 1 that we can cover that shortfall. And that'll show up here in section 3 in just a minute. So those are contingent upon that transfer. So with that, the total dollar amount for our account 2 rehabilitation projects is $17,702,910. That would stand for questions.
Any questions on rehabilitation projects? Okay, please
Okay.
proceed.
The third block are amendments to existing projects. We have 9 of those. The majority of them are time extensions. Might be some easements we're having trouble, or the sponsor's having trouble attaining, or various things, delays where we need a little bit more time to complete the projects. Both of our small water programs, new development and rehab, on an annual basis, we add money either from account 1 for the new development or account 2 for the rehab program to cover projects that year in our small water program. So that's typical. And then we have one project where a diversion structure that was planned is being moved upstream slightly, and they need some additional funds for $700,000 on that. So then the last thing I would mention is our sponsor contingency fund for account 3, which is our dam and reservoir program. We're asking to add some additional money to that to handle the pretty volatile bidding climate that we see right now with all construction projects, so we can be nimble and react quickly to changing conditions. So with that, I would ask if there's any questions.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question on back up to the top where it is level 3 projects on the Gillette Regional Extensions. Is that pipelines to subdivisions?
That's correct.
Okay, and so going on down to the level 3 projects and amendments, that's planning for additional subdivisions. And we started that a couple years ago, didn't we? And it was like a 3-phase.
I believe so. Yeah, it was for Meadow Springs Improvement and Service District, American Road and Water Sewer District, Freedom Hills,
Yeah.
Crestview. Yeah, and it's just been delayed a little
So
bit
it
from
takes,
easements.
yeah, it's just gonna take a little time to get through them all.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's different than the regional project.
Right.
Built in there.
Yes. Last question, I guess.
Go ahead.
I don't see it anywhere, but I thought I read it in the bill or one of the bills about what we were doing with the La Prairie Dam. What are we, can you guys bring me up to speed on that?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. So La Prairie Dam, I think you know the circumstances that it's in. And I think we'll be discussing that just with the next bill with the supplemental
Okay,
water
we'll
bill. So
Any
Mr.
questions?
Chairman, I
Go
move
ahead.
the bill.
Okay, just we'll make sure there's no public comment first, but yeah. Any further questions? Please? Okay, any public comment? Nobody online? Okay, public comment is closed. Senator Wasberg moved the bill, so we're sorry. Senator Cost second, it looked like, so. Looks like we do have a amendment provided to us by our staff on page 26. Chris, can you remind us who brought this and for what reason?
What was that, Mr. Chairman?
I'm struggling to remember what the purpose of the amendment was. I know it was identified by staff, but I forgot who exactly
Oh,
identified it.
Mr. Chairman, Abigail Bodowins drafted the amendment for you. And let me pull it up here really quickly, her email. And I can forward her email out to the committee as well, if that would be helpful.
That'd be great.
It deals with the interest rates and let's see here. And the loan provisions. And I am not too familiar with it, but I can forward it to you if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, sounds
Okay.
good. It seems like it's just make some adjustment to the interest rate for the loan as recommended by our staff. So go ahead, Senator Bouchard.
Yeah, it looks like it just, after 4%, it just puts a kind of a guidance on the. Or maybe I was gonna say cap, but it's the other direction. So,
Mhm.
so it doesn't look like it's,
Right, it looks like it's a 4% floor with the ability to go up if that's what interest rates do. So, yeah. So protecting the state, we issue a loan, make sure we're getting a decent rate of return. So that's why I understand it. So, okay. So, committee will discuss the bill. I'm not going to go through it page by page because there's lots of pages, but we do have that amendment. So somebody wants to move it. Moved by Senator Cost. Okay, second by Senator Bouchard. All those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. That amendment carries. Back on the bill committee. What, got any more discussion? Okay, let's go and do a roll call.
Senator Bouchard.
Aye.
Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Cost.
Aye.
Senator Wasserberger.
Aye.
Chairman Boner.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 ayes, do pass amended.
Okay, Senator French will be taking this one on the floor and in the Appropriations Committee when we re-refer it. Last bill for our consideration is Senate File 82. You gentlemen could go through that and let us know what the latest is as we look to utilize some one-time funds to take care of water infrastructure. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Brandon Gebhardt again. I'll try to walk us through this. This is a Select Water Committee bill. And really what this is trying to do is use some of the general fund money, what I understand to be surplus as kind of a result of the ARPA money to offset some of the money and fund some additional things in the water development program. So under section 1, the first one, Jason mentioned a $7 million transfer from account 1 to 2. This one would offset that transfer and use this bill to create $7 million in account 2. Mr. Chairman, then going on page 2, the bill also adds $2 million to our existing groundwater exploration program. And it provides under Roman numeral II, it provides $25 million for purpose of acquiring storage in Fontenelle Reservoir. And I can elaborate on that if you have any questions. And please, if you have questions as we go through this, go ahead and interrupt. Next one is adding $21,810,000 for the Goshen Irrigation District Tunnels 1 and 2. The next project would be adding $2 million to our Water Development Account 2 Sponsored Contingency Fund. The next one is providing $30 million for the LaPrelle Dam. And then the next paragraph talks about where it would revert and provides a reversion date. And then we get into some amendments to pre-existing authorizations. So the first one for groundwater studies, it would add, or this is the $2 million. So this actually just amends existing legislation for the $2 million that we already had. Same with page 5. That's the sponsor contingency fund, and it amends the legislation that authorizes that. And also on the bottom of page 5, dams and reservoirs. This, for the first one on page 6, is Alkali Reservoir. And what this bill does is it offsets $35 million from the general of Water Development 3 funds that are already appropriated, offsets that with this general fund appropriation. Same thing with the Levitt Reservoir. It would offset $30 million of the already appropriated money. And that's essentially the bill, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions to me? Can you go over the status of the La Perelle Dam? I heard that you applied for a federal grant. You just give us a little bit more detail on that.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. So the La Perelle Dam, we had some funding in the infrastructure bill that we felt could apply to La Perelle Dam. And as part of that funding requirement, it requires a letter from the governor to request funds for that. So the governor has issued the letter to, I believe it was the Bureau of Reclamation or Secretary of the Interior, one of the two, has requested funding for that. And the last I knew, that's where we stand right now. We have not gotten a response back, but we're pretty hopeful that this portion of the infrastructure bill will be in part utilized for La Perelle.
Okay, just a little bit more information. What is our expected timeline for when we hear back? When are we gonna know if that request has been successful?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think we've even heard that. There is no timeline in the bill, but all I know is that we satisfied that requirement. Now we're just waiting for an answer. But I apologize. I don't know when that will come.
Let me try another one. Was that for $30 million or was it for a different amount, the request?
The request did not have an amount in it. So my guess would be that I think the bill authorized up to $100 million. And the part of the criteria said that the project cost, including engineering, has to exceed $50 million. So my guess would be that it would be more, potentially the entire cost of the reservoir, which is in that 60 to 80,000 or $1 million range at this point. So it could be for the whole thing. We don't know.
Any follow-up, Mr. Meader? Good, okay. Any further questions, committee? Senator Wasserberg.
Thank you. So if federal dollars don't come in, do we still have a plan to address that dam?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have anything appropriated for that.
Mr. Chairman, I would add that we have been working, or I should say, the La Perelle Irrigation District has been submitted, I would say, an application to the NRCS for some federal funding as well, some assistance. So that is, at this point, a backup plan to at least then get into potentially design, NEPA, environmental analysis, and then potentially construction through that program. It wouldn't be 100% grant. I don't recall exactly what the grant percentages are on that, but at this point, if the federal funds through the infrastructure bill didn't come through, then I think we're, depending on the NRCS, we have not heard back on whether or not that they would accept that into their program yet, but it seems to fit with their criteria.
Okay, and we do have a $30 million appropriation in the bill for that as well. So there was some discussion between Senator Hicks and I as to whether we want to have an amendment to make that contingent upon the $30 million appropriation contingent upon what happens with the federal government. But I also, after reading this, it says that no funds will be expended unless authorized by the legislature. So it seems like it's already contingent the way the bill is drafted. So the way I understand this, we can pass the bill as is and see what happens. And there's a lot of uncertainty there. So I think it'd be prudent to, designate these one-time funds still. Of course, I'm pretty biased because it's in my district. So, but it affects I think it affects everybody in central Wyoming and beyond. So, okay. Any further questions, Quay? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Any public comment? Okay, going once, going twice. Public comment is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Cost, seconded by French. Any discussion or amendments, committee? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call.
Senator Bouchard. Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Cost.
Aye.
Senator Wasserberger. Chairman Boner.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 ayes, do pass.
Okay, thank you for your efficient work, committee, and thank you to our state agencies that did a lot of work in preparation that goes into getting 3 bills done in about half an hour here. So thank you for your diligence. We'll have to refer all these bills to the Appropriations Committee. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn for the night. Thank you.